hammer some of the criteria. One, the origin of his neshama. Let's see, we're talking about the origin of your neshama. We'll get into that. Number two is what's called the background. You going home now? Staying? Justice is a very subtle thing. It's very difficult. Why? Everyone's different. And you have to understand that, and we all know that. The Buddhist judge is no two people alike. But judge, he does. Can't take that away. The Buddhist is concerned to know what you do. That's why he gave you free will. He gave you free will because in essence he's saying, I'm going to let you do, in a certain sense, what you want, and you will tell me how to relate to you. That's essentially what he's saying. That is a great gift. But in return, the Buddhism says, I will examine your deeds. I want to see exactly what you do. You see. But when the Buddhism says, I will examine your deeds, you see, this is based on certain specific criteria. One, different people have different neshamas. What do I mean? There's certain neshamas, I think he spoke, that are born, that have a very strong sensitivity to ruchnius, to spirituality. There's certain neshamas that are born that are very low in that sensitivity. Well, obviously, someone who's born with a stronger sensitivity to spirituality, obviously has a greater inclination to do it. Mitzvah, for example. You will be drawn to Torah, you will be drawn to a relationship with God, to spirituality. Someone who doesn't have that will not be drawn to it, you see, much less. So obviously, this affects a person's free will. Okay. Who will the Buddhism hold more accountable? Who will he hold more responsible? He will hold the person with the greater spirituality. Because if the person with the greater neshama does a chait, the Buddhism says, look, I gave you a greater neshama, right? And you do a chait, you're much more culpable than someone with a less neshama, right? So therefore, the greater your neshama, the more culpable you are to transgression. Background. What was your background? Where did you come from? Were you brought up in the way of Torah, or were you not? Obviously, someone who is not brought up in the way of Torah at all is much less culpable than somebody who's brought up in a Torah background. True? Of course. So the Buddhism definitely takes that into account. Free will. How much free will do you really have? In other words, how much of the events in your life are really concerned with allowing you free will, and how many of the events of your life are really concerned with removing, like we said, scars that you've accumulated at different points in time? That also plays a difference, you see. If a person is under enormous pressure, he's very despondent and very depressed, because he's gone through a big sorrow. Obviously, this kind of a person has less of an ability to truly choose than a person who hasn't. Correct? You see? His emotional condition makes you much more inclined to a certain direction than another direction. So the Buddhism takes that into account also. So that's essentially what I'm saying. How the Buddhism judges you depends on different factors. And no two people are judged, you see. You feel that perhaps what I said has been too severe. That's not really true. Maybe you've taken it that. But last week, and I'll say it again this week, I was very clear to say that nobody's saying to you the nature of the judgment on you. Nobody can say that. What I'm simply saying is that there is a judgment on each individual. And that depends on certain specific parameters. That's what it is. What these parameters are for each individual depends on the individual, you see. And any particular choice that you may have, you see. To what extent are you responsible, to what extent not? I don't know. You don't probably even know. You see what I'm saying? All I'm alerting you. That's all. I'm alerting you to the existence of din. To the existence that the Buddhism is concerned what you do. So that don't think that you can do whatever you want to do and that there's no price tag to have to pay at the end. That's all I said. Should I have said that? If I don't have the right to say that, I shouldn't be here. Why am I talking really? What is all this about? Really? I've got to to tell you that life is serious. I've got to tell you that the punishment is concerned what you do. I've got to tell you that. I can't hide. I don't know what other people tell you. I really don't. You see, I don't know what your experience was in past day with verbatim or people. I don't know. I don't really care. But I've got to tell you that. You see, if I don't tell you that, I will be held responsible. Why didn't I tell you, see, that keeping the mitzvahs is an important thing? Not only is it important, it's essentially a life and death affair, you see. And the Banishim is very much concerned about it. Does that mean it's a life and death affair in terms of you? Not necessarily. That depends on the practice. Doesn't mean if you do transgressions, you got to be worried about, a stone doesn't fall down and hit you on the head. Chas v'shalom. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does mean that your olam haba does depend on your transgressions and your mitzvahs. You see, it's better that I tell you this now and you weep a little bit than they tell you this later on when you no longer have the options. You know what? But what your din is, what extent you have the experience, I don't know. That's not my job. You see, my job is not to tell you specifically what your problem, what the thing is. Nobody can do that.
No, but this is very clarifying. This is not
okay, but I did say this last week. Maybe it wasn't as clear, but I did say this last week. Okay, maybe it didn't come out that way. Because I said it. You didn't catch it. Well, you were so busy saying, oh, maybe you
what my problem is, though. I follow this, and I agree that this has to be said.
It's possible.
I even learned things that before. I think what really struck me was on Sunday, I turned around to really go back to my day.
Yeah.
If my Neshama was born, if I was born as Diana, with a Neshama that isn't Diana, I'm not, and I was born into situation, and I'm reacting to situations,
right.
And I'm aware of these scars. I'm so aware of them that I feel responsible for them. And on the other hand, I feel like some of them come without my choice. They came with the slip of life.
They come with.
And I think, well,
they come with
God,
the laundry.
And I found myself saying things like, well, God gave me scars, gave me my personality, and gave me scars that weren't my personality. Well, then I'm not going to bother doing tshuva on them. And I thought that was pretty scary.
Well, forget this thing. You have to do, what's the criteria of performance? What is the criteria of performance? The criteria of performance is the following. You have to try and do, within the context of your ability and your understanding, the best that you can. That's it. That's all. Don't worry about your scars. Listen to me. Don't worry about your scars. Don't consider, don't put back, you see, in any sense. Right now, there's a certain section of your life, there's a section of your being that has free will. Clearly, you see. There's a section of it that probably doesn't. But we all have that problem. Everyone in this room except me, including me, has aspects of the life that what do you call it, inhibit true free will. Everyone who exists today has that. Everyone. That's what it means to be born in the 20th century America. You see, that's what it means. You gotta do the best you can. You see, you must do the best you can in terms of this kind of a situation.
Why should I know that I have scars that I can't handle knowing about?
Nobody has told you what those scars are.
But I gave it. It's like I can imagine.
No,
you look at your life and you can see what you were born into, and you can see that there are patterns that have evolved, and patterns of behavior that have you something to
obviously, these are things that you've got to deal with. These are givens. But what you have to do is try and work with these givens. You see, you shouldn't be afraid of these givens and so on. And they're not. We were all born with a certain type of personality, and one day we go up and we say, "Well, here I am." You see, somehow I got here. I don't know how I got here exactly, but here I am. You see, and we've got to go from here.
There's got to be a way of understanding it.
Understanding what?
See, just understanding that God put you in a position to understand more than you can handle. God put you in a position to understand that your Neshama is not your personality, and yet you are living by your personality. But when it comes down to it,
you are not put.
Neshama,
You are not. No. You are not put in a position which is more than you can handle. It's not true.
Part of me that always believed that, and now it's something I'm questioning.
Well, I'm not clear where that comes from, but that's not so. You are only expected to do what you can handle. And the information, whatever you learn, however it filters down into your mind, it will allow you to do certain things, and certain things it will not respond to. You see, there's a certain. These shurim are heavy in a certain way because they reveal a lot. You see, and they in a sense reveal a lot, and they speak about a certain basic design, a different perspective of it. So the truth of the matter is, these shurim do tend to be somewhat heavy, but that information will filter into your mind, and it will interact with you in a certain way. And the way that it finally comes out is what you can really handle. You see, that's all. You shouldn't feel that you've got to live up to the information in a certain way. That's not true. That's not necessary.
In a way, what you're describing sounds like a sense of responsibility to the tshuva on all the scars that you've inherited from the Neshama. Not that you inherited, but all the scars that you can recognize. Because once you can recognize them, then you have to take responsibility. And here I am seeing things that I feel like I'm recognizing, and I don't understand where I'm seeing them from, and I don't really know how to handle them.
Well, it's difficult to know what you're recognizing, and I don't know. It's not. I'm not, talking to know what you're actually, what you're recognizing. That's a particular personal fear. But the thing is that.
Is this only me? I mean, if it is, then I don't think it's really good anymore. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know what the feeling was of people on that year. Well, a bunch of people not here, so maybe that tells me what it was. I don't know. Sometimes absence, attendance alone indicates what happened.
But there's some important things about this, especially if and it's everybody, in that if you say on the one hand, here's all this stuff, and on the other hand, you're obligated to live up to all the material, that's a little dichotomy, because if you're talking about what Hashem planted for the world and for individual human beings, and then you're in position to make choices at all times, right? Well, maybe not at all times. There are sometimes in situations. Let's say there are situations where you know that to be strict halachically with something as opposed to go with, let's say, personal desire, and let's say personal desire wins in certain situations. You have to limit it, even if it's not something else. You're living on the one hand with conscious knowledge that you're going with your nature or with your desires rather than transcending them. And going transcending obvious and maintaining.
Okay, now I think what we really have to do at this point is discuss certain of the process of procedures of what it means to get Tumah. What does it really mean? What does that mean? What are you supposed to do with this information? How is that supposed to affect you? Perhaps we should do that.
Can I just
that seems to be what.
Can I just ask you, and if you want to table them, or if there's some way you can respond to them in the context of the way you want to go, there's two things that were left for me to look into the tape that feel kind of pressing. One is what is the role that the Neshama plays in choice? In other words, what is being held responsible for a choice to do right or not to do right? Because it seems like the Neshama pays, but what is that choosing mechanism? How does it choose? And then the other thing.
Is that your question? Is that one of the things that you were concerned with?
Well, I'm drawing a definition, a line between Neshama and who you are.
Yes. Okay. We'll speak about that.
And then the other thing is there a teaching that you can give behind why it is that I, as a person who is not responsible for creating whatever you create when you do something wrong, right? That I inherit a neshama that has scars that have to be worked out from a life that I had nothing to do with.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, I hear you.
Like
Essentially what you're really asking is, what is the relationship of the neshama to yourself? That's what you're really saying, okay.
How does tshuva fit into that, and what is it, what is that cleansing, and how much does that really affect you while now? I mean, can you actually work through some things so that even if you forgive and you still have to pay later, is it like this, or is it, and so what is Yom Kippur then? What is tshuva in general?
Okay, basically, let's cover some of these questions. Okay, you're phrasing it better. Let's kind of grasp some of these questions. You, the sense of self that you have, is really composed of two things. It's composed of awareness. It's the ability to be aware of yourself. And it's composed of a certain type of awareness. What you are aware of about yourself. When you think about yourself, there are two aspects to it. First of all, that you are. That there's a self there. That you can refer to yourself. And you can think about yourself. And then there's also a certain feeling of what kind of person you are. You see, you think of yourself in certain terms. You see, you're a composite, let's say, of different qualities, personality qualities, emotional qualities, different intellectual qualities, experiential qualities, what happens to you in your life. Take all that stuff together, and that kind of gives you the appearance or the image of what you are. You see. What you are by virtue of your state of being, just the fact that you're human, means that you possess a state of consciousness. What you think of yourself, or the kind of image you have, depends on two things. It depends on external forces, and it depends on internal forces. The internal forces that it depends on are what you were born with, what's called the hereditary factors, the type of intellect you have, the type of bodily inclinations that you have. It's also dependent on external forces. What happens to you in life? Positive and negative experiences. We call that environment. See? Now, there is another very critical factor, which is very hidden, but it's probably the predominant factor which gives you the feeling of who you are, and that's your Neshama. How does the Neshama give you a feeling of who you are? The Neshama does not give you the feeling that you are, or that you are a self. It rather tells you what you're about. Because the Neshama infuses into the mind certain preoccupations, certain directions of thinking that come out of nowhere, you see. A heightened concern of MS, a heightened concern of certain sensitivities about ruchnius, about the world, about why things are the way they are, a heightened awareness of one's own position, one's own humility relative to everything, you see, of one's desire to do good, you see, all comes from the Neshama. The Neshama is a source, it's really a source. It is a source of inclinations in the direction of desire to do good and the desire to know truth. The greater your Neshama is, the more powerful will those two directions be. And you'll feel that in your personality. You'll feel about yourself that you have a good nature that is bothered to you if someone else is hurt. Automatically, from birth, no one has been taught that you. You feel that in you, that you're worried about someone else. It pains you what somebody else has told us. You're concerned about what truth is and what's not. You're a person who just can't accept falsity or sheker. Just like that. You want to know what the truth is. You try not to deceive yourself. You see yourself as a person with insight and trying to be honest. You see, these things come from the Neshama, really. Because the Neshama is the source of positive inclinations.
So the way the Neshama is differentiated from another Neshama has to do with the degree to which you have this.
In certain ways, the Neshama is the magnitude of your Yetzer Tov. If I may say, the Neshama is the magnitude of your Yetzer Tov. The greater your Neshama, the greater your Yetzer Tov. You understand my Yetzer Tov? You see? I think that's fascinating. You know, the Neshama doesn't make you know yourself. The sense of awareness or consciousness is not from the Neshama. But what you think of yourself, the way that you direct yourself in terms of the internal dispositions of your inner personality comes from the Neshama.
And how do you...
You gotta follow.
Don't the external forces obscure sometimes?
Yes.
Neshama?
Yes. What happens
You know
is...
what is psychologically,
What happens, yes.
environmentally...
Now, I'm not going to... See, obviously, there was an interaction here between what's called Neshama, or what's called more technically Kochos HaNefesh. That's the real word which is used. I've used this word a number of times. Kochos HaNefesh, or what's called abilities of the soul, you see. And then there are what's called psychological forces. There's a very deep interaction between these two, you see. To talk about the actual interaction of these two is obviously it's not an elementary affair. But suffice to say, this point is that the Kochos HaNefesh, or the Neshama, contributes the goodness and the truthfulness of a person. Those two qualities come from the Neshama, and they have to do with the degrees of this Kochos HaNefesh. And they're inborn. They have to do with the kind of Neshama you were given. You see. Now, it also has to do with other things. Now, let's take you, for example, or anyone, and let's take you back to a previous lifetime. What were you like in a previous lifetime? What's the continuity of you? If you don't mind me taking this, I'm not going to refer to this in general. What's the continuity of you, Diana, from now to a previous lifetime? 99% you lived before. There are very few neshamas that came down for the first time. Almost every person that lives now has lived before. Okay. You can tell the neshama also. You can sometimes tell the neshama that was never came down before.
No, I've been here before, I'm sure.
Okay. Now the thing is like this. Who are you? Let's say you lived at a different time. Who are you before and who are you now? Like, what relationship do you have with that person before? Are you the same person? What does it mean that you're the same person or the same neshama? Well, the fact of the matter is the following. You're the same person and you're a different person. How? You have a sense of self, and let's say there's a person, and the person's name is Miriam. Okay. Here's a person, and her name is Miriam. Okay? Now, there are two Miriams. There's Miriam A, and there's Miriam B. Miriam A lived 300 years before Miriam B. Okay? What's the difference between these two Miriams? Really? There's a vast difference. Well, first of all, let's examine this. Both Miriams obviously have a sense of self. Both lived in a different time, in a different era, and both had different features of personality. Both had different parents, different conflicts, and so on, different stresses, different adaptations. Hence, basically, both had different personalities. But there's something that they both have, which is exactly the same, you see. Both have the same type of Yetzer Tov, and to the extent that that Yetzer Tov expresses itself in mind, they are exactly the same person. Because the truth of the matter is, the only constant and stable feature of your personality is the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. That's the real you. If I stripped you of your body and your guf and your personality, and I looked at you in a neshama, what would there be like? What you would see is the essence of the person. What would you see? You wouldn't see a personality anymore, because a personality is a physical, psychological affair. What you would see is a spiritual being translated into kedusha or non-kedusha or tumah. You would see the same person at a different way. You would see the inner person. You would see the level of kedusha or the level of toll that the person is. You see the fire in that person or the lack of it. You wouldn't see a personality, or you would see a personality, but the person that has a neshama is directly related to its kedusha and nothing else. Hence, Miriam A and Miriam B are really the same person, because they have the exact same neshama. If you split them both back to the neshama, you literally see the same being. You see, but when that neshama is in a body and it goes through life in a certain way, it expresses itself differently. So the person go through those instances, thinks to himself, to some degree is a different person, but there will be a whole part of that person which would know that he was the same person. He would know it, because he would feel that there's a certain basic root which is exactly the same. You see, hence there's an aspect of it. There's a certain two features of every person. There's a constant part and there's a variable part. The constant part is a description of his kochas hanefesh, the degree of tov that he relates to, how much ruchnius and kedusha he really has. And the variable part is how that kedusha or tov expresses itself through personality, you see, and through these other features, and through intellect. But intellect and personality are more expressions of that inner kedusha and inner fire than actual elements of it. You see, it's hard to recognize that because we're so fused. We are so identified by our personalities. You see, for example, the best way to understand it is the following: when you were 7 years old, do you remember when you were 7 years old? Do you remember when you were 7 years old? Would you say that you were the same person at 7 as you are now? What?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. I ask you. You see, this is an illusion. We think that the way we are now is the way we will be forever. At this moment in time, your state of consciousness, you assume that this is what you will be from now on, and this is what you always have been. But that's not true. You have not been the person that you are right now. The person that you are right now is a certain type as an adult at a certain age. What were you like at 3? Who were you at 3? At 7? At 10? At 15? At 23? At 30? Were you the same person? What changed? What remained the same? You see, you first answer me this question, and then I'll deal with the Neshama. You see, you think that you have a problem figuring out who the real you is in terms of Gilgulim. Gilgulim means transmigration of souls. You've got a bigger problem. You've got to figure out who is the real you in your own physical life. Who is the real you and who is not? You see my point? Is there someone who is you to begin with? Is there a real Diana somewhere? It was in all those personalities. Will the real Diana stand up? You see, who is that and who is not? You can't say that you were 7 years old. At 7 years old, your mind was preoccupied with a whole different set of drives. At 7 years old, you understood the world in a different way. I mean, a 7-year-old kid understands the world in a certain way, has different drives. A 3-year-old kid is preoccupied with its toilet training. It's intensely involved with that, you see, and its ability to walk, you see. And that's what preoccupies its mental head all the time. It has a totally different set of values, a 3-year-old child. What, is that you? You're no longer concerned with that, you see. So then, what happens?
Like, what is the sense of I attached to?
Yes, what is it attached to? The answer is, what is essentially the sense of I remains the same is the kedusha, means the proclivity towards emes and goodness. That's the real self. But that manifests itself in many different ways. The body, the guf, and its stages will determine how that kochas hanefesh, how that desire for truth and goodness will manifest itself at any point in time. You see, a 3-year-old child cannot transcend its preoccupation with toilet training or its preoccupation with these things. It cannot transcend it. Its body demands, it drives. You see, it drives the man that its mind be concerned with these things. It sees discharge only in these terms. It doesn't know really anything else. It only knows that I need mommy and daddy to love me, you see. It's intensely dependent on its parents, and it's preoccupied with these things. Later on, when the person grows up, these drives go away. Well, the drives went away, but what about the person? Did the person go away? No. So what's left behind? What's left behind, you see, is the real person. He's the one behind the specific mental set at that point in time, which is governed to a large degree by the body, you see, and the success or failure of the adaptation of those bodily needs or emotional needs at that point in time. What's really left is the inner fiber of the person, the inner goodness, and the inner humility or truth of a person. You see, is this person cruel by nature, or is he really good by nature? Sometimes we look at a person and we say, he is a great soul. Like, for example, even the Goyim understood this. There was a man, Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma is called the great soul. You sometimes, they recognize in him a quality, a different quality. You look at two adults, for example. You can see that one adult is a totally different individual than the other adult. You see? And it's beyond just personality. It has to do with the inner core of the person. What he's willing to understand. What he's willing to accept. The kind of tribulation and trials he's willing to go through. His capacity to fight for truth and for goodness, you see. There's an inner sense of what a person. Different people differ in terms of their inner dignity. How great the soul is. Sometimes you can see a person, you say, this person is a great person. What's great about him? It's just the way the guy is, the way he's put together. But fundamentally what you're talking about is the inner person, you see. His tolerance, his patience, his wisdom, you see, his goodness. These qualities are the inner person, you see. Not necessarily the drives at that moment in time, you see, or the bodily preoccupation. It's not that. It's something much deeper. It's a person's relationship to the world itself. It's the person's relationship to the ultimate truth. The willingness to recognize his position vis-a-vis the eternal, you see, in all its manifestations, in terms of how he relates to God, how he relates to other people, how he relates to himself. It's his commitment to truth and to real reality without the desire for deception. You see, that's an aspect of inner soul. And that's what the real person is. That's what you really are, you see. The same person, this Miriam A and Miriam B, is the same person at that 2 points in time. Why? Because the person will recognize herself as being the same person. Even though there are aspects of personality that are different because of cultural and environmental and historical differences. Just like in your own life, you are different. But what does this mean? This means more than that. You will not be the same person that you are 30 years from now. You see, when you're 50, 60, 70 years old, you think you're going to be the same person now? No, you'll be a whole different person in many ways. You have gone through a whole different things. You will understand more. Your inner koiches, your inner traits will have been worked out in a whole different fashion. You see, that net result is your neshama. You see, the image that you will have created is ultimately what your neshama will have. That's what we mean by a scar on the neshama. A scar on the neshama means that there's an interference with the neshama's ability to incline the person towards truth and goodness. You see what I'm saying? That's what we mean by a scar. That's what we're talking about. Because that's the ultimate criteria of how you will be in Olam Haba. Because in Olam Haba there's no such thing as all these vicissitudes of personality. In Olam Haba you will be stable. What you are at that point is what you will be like for all time. That may be a frightening thing. But in Olam Haba there are no more variable aspects to your being. There is only one constant aspect to your being. There is no change like there is here. You see. And that constant aspect of being is your relationship to truth and your relationship to a higher interaction with reality. Am I making myself clear? What? Okay. Well, I tell you, many times I'm very glad that you asked it. I mean, like I say, don't think that your questions are in any sense put me over. I'm very glad because I need to know from you feedback what issue I'm on. Sometimes I will have explained something and sometimes I will have not. Sometimes I can't explain it. I think there's more information that's necessary. But I need to know from you where we're holding it. If necessary, I will try and elaborate it more specifically. But I hope I'm giving a better idea. This is really what it is, you see. Now, the difference between Miriam A and there is a difference between Miriam A and Miriam B. There really is, in one way. Because Miriam A, by the time she dies, will have produced a certain type of neshama. So, Miriam B now has the Miriam A neshama at the end of a cycle. That's different. Miriam B looks like what Miriam A looked like before she died. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because Miriam A worked through her neshama, either expanded or contracted it vis-a-vis these critical internal criteria, so that by the time it's finished and it goes out of the body and you'll go into a new person, you see, it has a different stature or a different status than it had at the beginning of Miriam A's life. You see what I'm saying? You know, it's a very strange thing. It's like you literally have, it's like an accordion. You really have the ability to either expand that neshama or contract that neshama. And how you expand or contract it, depending on your disease, this deed gives you literally what you will appear in the next life or in the world of souls or in Olam Haba. You see, that's the incredible thing about it. The neshama is your key. It's your connection to truth. But it is also a variable connection, because just like the neshama can affect you, the self and its deeds affect the neshama. Hence, you literally mold the neshama to a feedback process of what it ultimately feels like. So you may have been given a great neshama at the outset, but you may have ruined it by constantly being involved in very negative activities. You see, for example, let's say a person is born with a good nature, but that person allows himself to become very selfish. And after a while, the person becomes selfish and begins to do cruel things. You see what I'm saying? What happens to that person? Well, after a while, the person's personality now has a tendency towards bad behavior. You see what I'm saying? So the person took what was once a noble personality, you see, and lowered it, diminished it considerably, literally tainted it. That's what we mean by the scar. So that by the first time a person is much later in life, he's desensitized himself to all those feelings that he could have sensitized himself to at the beginning. Well, that desensitization results in a contraction of the neshama, which we call a scar. You see what I'm saying?
What is it in a human being? What is the entity or structure? What is it that makes the choices? I mean, there's some sense in which you're describing the
because what happens is the self, the inner self of the person is confronted with two different sets of drives. What it gets from the neshama is a drive towards truth, reality. And what it gets from the neshama is a desire to see oneself vis-a-vis the truth of reality. What it gets from the other side is from the body. And what it gets from the body is simply the desire to gratify, you see, every bodily urge and every emotional urge which is rooted in the body. And the Yetzer Hara essentially is rooted in the body, but the Yetzer Hara can also have a spiritual manifestation. You see, it can have. You see. But its essential root is the body. But it's these two things, you see. Both of these drives, or these dispositions, confront the self, the person.
Is the self a unity of these two things, or is the self something else?
It's the self that's really beyond these two things.
So self is beyond it.
It fills up with these two things at any point in time.
But not simply a composite of
No, the self is not synonymous with either of these two. The reason is because the self is a merger of body and soul. You see, if you were only a soul and not a body, then the self which is attached to the neshama alone has the capacity to manifest self. But then what would that neshama feel like? Total kedusha. Yes, it would be total kedusha, because the neshama separate from a guf, separate from a body, only knows kedusha. Doesn't know anything else, because it knows what its essential substance is. You see, its essential substance is light or kedusha. Hence, the self which comes from that neshama is the knowledge of just goodness and truth. That's all it knows. A self which only has to do with the body, which we said was the nefesh tachtona. Let's say a person has no soul, and a person is only a body, meaning that he has a body and a nefesh, and a lower nefesh. If he only knows the drives and the preoccupations of the body, he doesn't know what it means to concern himself with something higher than the body. What does that mean? He's literally oblivious to that. His self is preoccupied with its source, which is body. Now, when you take in the neshama and body and you put it together, the self which emerges is now affected by two sets of drives, each one vying for dominance. And it's that self which has to choose in terms of which set of drives will dominate. And the set of drives which dominates either raises the body or raises the neshama, lowers the neshama, you see.
This whole notion of what the self is so difficult because in some way,
it is very
the self is what is ultimately held responsible, accountable. The self is what determines the future of all this, and yet
the self determines, maybe to put it precisely, it's the self which ultimately determines the superiority, or rather the self is what determines its substance, or the dominance of its substance. If the self chooses to connect itself to a substance of neshama, it will manifest the drive of neshama. If it chooses to connect itself to guf, it will become more a reflection of that type of thing. It is the self which in a way transcends and emanates from both, you see, is merged with guf neshama. Hence that self, in a way, has a choice to allow itself to be expressed through its neshama or through its guf. And ultimately it determines the main or primary factor of its substance, and hence the primary factor of its own preoccupation.
When you're born,
Kind of see what I'm saying? Well, there's a schematic diagram will be shown that brings us more light. Here we have neshama, right? Okay? And here we have guf. Okay? Both address itself to something called self. Okay? Now, the truth of the matter is that either one of these two can produce self. But that self will be a reflection of whatever that substance is. You see what I'm saying? It will be a reflection of what that substance is. A neshama, abstracted or isolated from a guf, feels itself in a spiritual way. A guf, abstracted or isolated from a neshama, feels itself in a guf way, in a physical way. You see, put the two together and the self is confused because it feels both at the same time. You see. Wait. Now, what the Buddhism says is choose, meaning that you basically will be determined. The power of the drive depends on how powerful the neshama is and how powerful your guf. You see. But whatever power is, you must choose. And what your choice will do will send back a contrary force. You see, if you choose the inclination of the neshama, what you will do is slowly expand the substance of neshama. If you choose the direction of guf, you will expand the substance of guf. And as you expand it, it will impinge itself on you even further and lower your free will. You see what I'm saying? A person who chooses evil all his life, after a while becomes an evil being, because his guf will have become so powerful and dominant. You see, then his true free will is lowered automatically. What's that? Yes. Yes, you're right. Exactly. You also lower your free will. You're 100% right. But that's alright. You see, because why is that alright? Because the name of the game is not to have free will. The name of the game is to get to Olam Haba with free will. What does the Buddhism want? He's not giving you free will, you see, to give you a sense of power. He's giving you free will because he wants you to use it and choose to get to Olam Haba. He wants you to give this whole. He only gave you free will because he wants you to earn it. That's why. So he's not interested in you sustaining free will. He's interested in using it to get to the proper objective. Free will is a tool. In Olam Haba, there is no free will at all. It's gone. No one has a choice to do a chet in Olam Haba, because there's no guf as we know it in Olam Haba. Not the way we know it. There is, but not the way we know it. There's no yitzhar in Olam Haba, so there's no free will. Everything emanates from the neshama in Olam Haba. Hence, the whole self is a reflection of neshama, and it exhibits, it reflects. It preoccupies itself with the attitudes or mental sets, whatever it is in the world of neshama, exactly in terms of how powerful its neshama is. In essence, you build your neshama. you are born with certain givens. There is a certain ratio between these two.
That's given.
That's given. That's given. That depends on your generation and depends on your individuality. It depends, first of all, when you were born in history, in time, and it depends on also what Miriam A did. Miriam B will be a reflection of Miriam A. In other words, the ratio of these two will be to a large extent what Miriam A did. You see, if Miriam A was a very fine person and sensitized herself to good traits and kedusha, you see, then what happens is when Miriam B is born, for whatever reason that is, the neshama will be more powerful to go. Hence, that child will be a very good one by nature. You see, you may say, well, there's less free will. So what? We don't need that much free will anymore because the person will have done a great deal of the job as Miriam A. We just need the person to just finish up a little more. You see. But these go into complicated questions. But you have the general idea. Yes.
When God created the world,
Yes.
He created all the neshamas equal?
No.
That's the thing. So therefore, so correct me if I'm wrong, and a person goes through something. You have a neshama, it's been passed down through generations. It's gone through different lives. It's a reflection of many of those lives, plus the way it was created.
Plus its origin, its source, its
Right.
original
Okay.
creative origin.
Okay,
Right.
so then
Yes.
through that, and for the time it's born, the person is himself is created because the group is created in a ratio of the neshama. The neshama has to deal with, the self has to deal with not only what the neshama is as a reflection of what it's been through, but also how it was born. So, and that will reflect in the struggle of these individuals.
Yes. All that reflects itself in the
In
struggle.
the struggle.
Yes.
So that struggle comes from not only what the neshama, what scars the neshama has, but how good it was to be.
Yes. Yes. But the
Wow.
truth is, yes.
So in the beginning was neshama.
Yes. It comes from its we'll call that its ultimate origin, what it was like at the beginning of its creation, and the scars, or let's not call it scars, that's a bad word. The Neshama, in two ways, as a given at birth, and as a feedback in each life. I think we got the picture here. It sounds complicated. It is. You imagine they have to keep cheshbon up there. You really, you talk about an accounting system. They have to know, obviously, they have to know, right, each neshama, every section of it, every life, and its interaction with everyone else. When they take Miriam A and they put it back out to Miriam B, they have to know exactly where to put Miriam B in a new life. They have to know when to put Miriam B down, in what life, in which parents, in which country, in which situation, so that a certain personality will be constructed. You see, why? So that the person will have a certain ratio between the goods and the neshama and is able to fix up that specific thing. That is incredible. What do you call it? Hashgacha. That's what means the hashgacha process. You see what I'm saying?
We
right.
all have our
So,
own.
when you say, so I'm overwhelmed, like I feel responsible. No. You see, it depends on so many other things. You see, you're not responsible for who you are. You are in a sense.
If I can see it, then I am.
I will say one thing, okay? I will say one thing. And I have to alert you to this, again. And it's an important thing to say. There was a very great tzaddik, his name was a disciple of Rebbe. I don't know if you heard of him, he just died a couple months ago. He's a disciple of, I don't know, he was in Eretz Yisrael. He was like one of the elders, he was in his 90s and so on. He was an extraordinary tzaddik. Baruch Kodesh, and so on. And what happened was there was a man that came to him and said, I forget exactly what the situation was, but either he was married to a woman that didn't want to be from, or I forget exactly what the situation was. And the disciple of Rebbe said, let me see your wife. I think it was his wife, I'm not sure. She didn't want to be from anymore. And he said to my father, which was an absolute shock. He never thought, I don't know if this has spoken like this, but this was a very strange story. He said to the woman, I want you to know that a neshama can come back down 4 times and no more. In other words, you can only come down to the world a maximum of 4 times. That's what he said. I want you to know this is your 4th. Meaning, not only for you, this is the last time for everyone. There will be no more opportunity for anyone left on this planet. Because we're right before the Mashiach. And when Mashiach comes, it's over. You see. Which means that he said to her, this is your last opportunity. I mean, you want to talk about fighting things? Okay? And we had to tell him the way it was. It's your choice. But he said that. So I just want to tell you, all the things, but the truth of the matter is that in the thousands of years of human history, this is the last time. Who knows? The Mashiach can come any day. Tomorrow, next week, next year. Most people hold, and there seems to be a very strong, powerful current in the air, that he is imminent. And the likelihood is that he will be here in your lifetime. Which means that it's either now or never. What do we mean now or never? I don't mean that you got to run out. I'm simply saying, you see, that whatever appearance you give to your neshama is what you will live with in the Mahabah. Whatever you are now and whatever you do with yourself is vital. You know what I'm saying? Now again, I'm not judging you at all. I'm just simply saying what has been said, and I think it's important to know. You see, so whatever you can do, try. If you cannot do it, don't worry about it. There's something else that I want to say also, and I'll conclude with that. Everyone understands what we said till now?
I have one other question. Still important, but should I say before you summarize?
Okay, good.
I still am not clear what it is that drives the self that affects that ratio that's given at the beginning
I
of your life.
didn't get that. What affects the ratio?
Oh,
I see. What
drives?
nothing determines it. It's free will.
But the self is not.
Why would the self sometimes go this way and the other way?
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
If it's a situation of free will, by definition, there are no external forces. That is the essence of free will. If I said to you that there's a preponderance of forces in one direction versus the other, you've lost your free will. You see. In other words, that's why we do not know. No person knows what extent he has free will and what extent he doesn't. You see, there are many times that you will choose in a certain direction because you don't have any choice. The Baruch will force you in a certain direction. You can see, many times the Baruch will force you in a direction of Kedusha. Forget about it, I'm talking about bad. Kedusha. Many times it's the Baruch who will make you firm. Sounds funny, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is. The Baruch will suddenly give you the opportunities and no one else. You see, for some strange reason, you will meet certain people, or you will come into certain contacts, or experience certain things, and suddenly you begin to entertain the idea of learning Torah. Why does this happen? You see, suddenly the Baruch singled you out, and your neshama, and gave it the preponderance on the side of Kedusha, and said, let's help this person out. You see, let's take it out of that darkness. You see what I'm saying? Now, when the Baruch will do it, why he does it, and how that affects the free will is not clearly knowable, you see. But once he does that, you see, then he may remove his power and he'll say, let's see now what you do on your own. At one point he will remove his power, at what point he will sustain it, we don't know. He may say, I want to get you to a certain point, and in order to get you to that certain point, you have no free will. You see what I'm saying? I want to make you fall to a certain point.
And you're feeling that you're exercising free will.
Yeah, right, because you don't know. You see, all you know is what enters your head. But you don't know if that which enters your head, or that feeling, is coming from an inner source of you. You don't really know what that is. Consciousness is a response. It's an effect. We simply are aware of that which has been presented to our mind. We don't do the searching. We don't present, in a sense, what actually is there. It's a strange illusion we have. You see.
The self winds up being a bigger mystery than the neshama.
That's right.
It's not static. It's not static.
We will get into this much deeper in page 8 and 9. We will go into this. The relationship of self to Neshama.
This is critical.
Yes. Well, that's what it is. It's all critical. Yes. We'll go into that much deeper in page 9. Right up ahead. A couple weeks up ahead, we will go into explore this. But I want you to get the feel of that. You see.
So Torah and mitzvah is the formula that balance.
Yes. For those who are fortunate to have been brought into the Torah, it is an incredible opportunity to expand the neshama like nothing else. Any good deeds will expand the neshama, and naturally it has to. But the Torah will expand it with literally like a flame. You see, it's like the Neshama is ravenous for that type of light. You see what I'm saying? So those people have the opportunity, for one reason or another, who are involved in Torah, and that is your, that's your opportunity. It's an extraordinary opportunity that you're given. You really should sit down and make a special bracha that you are where you are now, really. You see, that you, especially if you are about tshuva, especially, that in some mysterious fashion, the Baruch Shem brought you back, and for some reason of his own, wants you to have this opportunity, and a lot of other people are not worthy of that. Who knows why? We don't know what that is. Really, what that is. You see what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Now, once you are brought back, the Baruch Shem may bring you back up to a certain point, and then let you go on free will. It's like a dog on a leash. I hate to use this special, You hold it, then suddenly you take the leash off and you let it run. I'm sorry to use that. I don't mean there's no association here, but in a certain sense, the Baruch Shem will bring you up to a certain point, and then say, run. I let you on your own now. But we do not know clearly what that is. We can't second guess God. What we have to do is assume in some way that we are at a point of free will and do the best we can. We have to look at every situation of life and you have to say to yourself, do I have the ability to withstand this really, or would it be too painful? And if the person says yes, then he should try. And let's say he tries and he fails, then it may be an indication that he just didn't have it yet. But he shouldn't give up. He should say to himself, wait. You see, wait. I'll stay in the ring a little longer. But there will come a time, I'll be knocked down, you see, in the ring. Because the Eitzah is too powerful, you see. He'll knock me down. I'll go through several rounds. But there will come a time that I'll be able to stand. That's really what it means to develop Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, and I think this is also one of the important problems. You think that to be from or not from is an instantaneous affair, or something that can be done right away. No, it's a very difficult affair, and it has to be done this way. You see, to be from, many times you've got to go 2 steps backwards to go 1 step forward. That's the way it works. Being from or growing in Ruchnius doesn't mean to go step by step by step. What it really means is to go 2 steps back, 2 steps, you know what I mean? That's really the way it is. That's how it really works. Except that we think that when we're going back, we're losing. No. As long as that we realize, we say to ourselves, I tried, I just don't have the power. Wait. There will come a time when I will have the power, you see. And that's how you have to look at it. Don't look at the immediate success or the immediate failure. It's not the battle, it's the war.
It's like a blood shot.
In a
You have
sense,
to go back to certain things.
yes, to go forward. Yes, yes.
That's the image picture.
Yes, that's a good image. That's in a good metaphor, and that's really what it is. It's important to understand also. I think if you understand it this way, you won't feel so bad when you're moving back, you see. Because you'll realize that moving back is part of the process of moving forward. As long as you try ultimately, if you move back and you give up and you say, I'm moving back, I don't want to go back, and I don't want to go forward anymore, that's when it's detrimental. It's not the movement backwards which is detrimental. It's the resignation to that backwards movement which is detrimental. You see what I'm saying? That's what's bad. If you say, I resign myself to that, and I like it here, that's what's destructive. Not the movement backwards itself, you see. Let me tell you something. I'll give you a good marshal about it. Don't ever think that if you go into the ring, life is like a boxing match, and the contender is the Yetzer Hara. I want you to know that when you're in the ring, you don't have a chance. Really. You can't beat the Yetzer Hara. The object is not to get into the ring and fight him. The object is to stay out of the ring. That's really the object of what it is. The object is not to put yourself in a situation and then fight the forces. The object is to keep yourself away from the battle. That's the real way to fight the Yetzer Hara. You see, don't be doing the in a certain sense, that's correct. Yes. I don't want to make a determination, but it says that if you live in an environment which is massively influential on you, the truth of the matter is, you are obviously in the ring. Right? So what a person who wants to go in Yerushalayim says, it's not that I'm going to live in this situation and I'm going to fight it, because the problem is you can't. It's someone who says, wait a minute, I have to recognize my own weaknesses, you see. And what I like to do is I like to get out. but I can't get out really. I got too many friends over here. So the person says, I don't have the strength at this point. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will have in my mind the desire to move away from this place. And slowly, incrementally, I will try and release myself. First from the emotional shackles to the environment, and then from the residential shackles. You see, you've got to break the battle down into segments, and take one segment at a time. You see, that's another way to look at it. These are all little techniques in terms of how to deal with the Yetzer Hara. All small techniques that are very important. Don't get into the ring with them, number one. Realize that a step backwards is not necessarily what? Failure. As long as you have the desire to go forward, and that the fight to the Yetzer Hara must always be done incrementally, in small jumps, not in large leaps. There are very few people that can jump in large leaps. You've got to be, pardon the expression, one hell of a neshama to do it. You see. And the truth of the matter is, we don't have that power. Those are three basic ideas, you see, that I think we can use ourselves. How to really grow in Neshama. But fundamentally, what's really important, as important as everything, is to have the desire to go ahead. And for that, you need Torah. You need to understand what it's all about. That's in a sense what I try and impart to the Shurim. To let you know what it's about, to give you certain information and certain understanding ideas of what is involved, how important it is, and to try and move ahead to the best of your ability. Okay. Does that make it easier? Okay? Feel better? Okay. Tshuva is part of that process. Tshuva is part of the process of falling back because you don't have the strength to move forward and saying to yourself, I don't want to be here. I have to be here at this time. Okay. For the time being, but I don't want to. The beginning of tshuva is the resistance to the backward movement. You see. Just to resist. Not accepting it. Even if you're moving back. That's the essence of tshuva. You see. The essence of tshuva is not moving back and liking it. You see. And then saying, wait a minute, maybe I've done a mistake. Well, that's a tshuva, but the real tshuva, the tshuva that leads to high levels of Yiras Shamayim, is the recognition of the badness self and saying, okay, I'll give in now. I'll let myself be knocked down. You know, like the tree before the wind? Sometimes the tree has to bend, or else it'll snap. Okay, I've got to bend. If I don't bend, I'll snap. But I will bend with the desire to eventually, you see, reinforce myself so that eventually I can withstand that wind. And that's what you really have to do. Now, if you fall backwards, okay, then you have to evaluate that and say, wait a minute, maybe I had more power than I thought. Let me try again. Or minimally, when you go on Yom Kippur to the Neshama and you daven, what are you really saying? The Neshama, I've done sins. What kind of sins? So you really have to daven your own davening. And that's really what it is. You have to sit down and say, look, for those sins, you see, when I was forced to move back and I really didn't want to, you know that I really didn't want to go back. So overlook those sins, you see. For those sins that I went back and I wanted to go back, I realized my mistake. Give me the strength to be able to go forward again. That's the nature of that type of tshuva, you see. It's not, oh, I'm a horrible person, I'm a terrible person, I should be whiplashed. That's not what it is. That's guilt. Tshuva should not be done from guilt. It should be done from the recognition of truth, of what the person's true purpose in life is, and how that purpose is to be done, how you move ahead in the spiritual way, what the techniques are. That's the higher level of tshuva. And that tshuva has enormous effect, you see. That type of tshuva will set you apart from most people. Because most people do tshuva in the sense, well, I did something terrible. But if you do tshuva, I've done something bad. I really didn't want to do it. But I didn't have the power. You see, if you constantly put forward in front of you the desire to keep ahead, to try and keep ahead, that this is where it is, that will be the most powerful statement of your being and your personality, you see. And there is really no more precise statement about who you are and where you want to go.
What does Chuba do to the Neshama?
It cleans it up. It takes away. It allows the contraction to be removed, and the Neshama begins to expand again. That's what Chuba really does. It counteracts the contraction.
And then it starts to get
expand.
It starts to get strong and overpower the good.
Yes. Okay, I think we'll conclude here.
Thank you, Rabbi. This is very good.
Well, I'm happy that you brought it up. I would have felt very bad. And so on, if I not
We thank you for bringing it up.
You see the value of coming every week? Now those poor people who didn't come back this week, they must be in, I don't know, but I'm just saying. Well, whatever it is, so make sure to tell a story this, okay? Whatever, so I don't know what you felt like watching that, so please do.
This is a very important share, Rabbi.
Well, they all have information, all the shoes, that's the thing.
But this is,
well, it's something to think about. I think it's something to think about and to look at.
Someone comes up with this, and then we all benefit by it. So we thank you.
I knew I wasn't definitely going to be you.
Oh, is that what it was?
I was thinking, my brother was treating me to my sister, but she couldn't get tickets. I said, if we can get tickets, I'm going. I really wanted to go to class.
See, sometimes the punishment takes care of it.
That's right.
And she said, wait a minute. She's done a lot for this. Let's take it easy for her, Who did not get? I think there seems to be a confusion about 4 and 5, and I must apologize for it. To those people, to those people who want to.
Should I make check that one? One for Bernie.
Make that a motion.
And then
Yeah,
I'm paying her for this, but I have to pay you.
Oh, I have to do.
Should I make that two checks?
You made one.
That one does okay.
Oh,
Rabbi.
So I got it, it's much more
I thought that's Maurice.
I know.
From
It's not
Yeah, he told me to call you.
I want it? I was going to use it myself, but I took it.
Yes, Rabbi.
Much better.
All right.
This is twice
Okay, Rabbi.
Okay?
That's what you had left?
That's what I had. I can
Any more left?
Yeah, I can get it.
You don't have the others anymore.
I can get the other better. I'm not going to get that better.
Yeah, because you have to check. All right, I'll check you. Okay, now let me add. What do I owe you?
Okay?
What else now? What about this type strap?
What are you paying me? This is a feature of that. What is this? Do you want to get me paid
Sorry.
No, I want to get me $4.
12, 30.
So it's not too much. It's not the same.
What is it? We pay for the time off. What he shows the night, 4 weeks. 4 Mondays, 4 Mondays.
All right.
This is looking forward to these off.
Okay, yeah.
It's 24.